Jeremiah from Bigfoot Society here. Had the privilege of interviewing Josh again from episode 290 about his interesting encounters that have been happening in the suburb of West Linn, Oregon. So you're not going to want to miss this one to see if Bigfoot is getting too close to South Portland or if South Portland is getting too close to Bigfoot. Either way, you're not going to want to miss this one. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed and buckle up. Hi there, you're listening to the Bigfoot Society Podcast, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Every week I talk to individuals who have experienced Sasquatch in some way or another, so you won't want to miss an episode. Make sure you're subscribed on the platform that you're listening to, and share this episode with a friend. It does not cost a thing, and it helps the show continue to grow. If you'd like to hear Bigfoot Society episodes early and ad-free, you can do so by becoming a Patreon supporter or a YouTube channel member. Links to those are in the show notes. In Bigfoot Society, I've taken far too much of your time so far, so let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Josh again. You may remember Josh from episode 290, just a little bit ago, episode 290 of Bigfoot Society, and we had talked about his encounters in the Hatcher's Pass area of Alaska, and he also had some things happen in Oregon that he shared in that episode as well. But Josh has reached out again, and he's got some more interesting things to share. How's it going today, Josh?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Just a little excitement going on over here, but pretty good. I just got back from a hunting trip down in Klamath Falls. I just got a lot to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Before we do, so what were you successful on your hunt, or anything happen out of that?
Oh, well, I had found my way into. It's real difficult because I'm still new to the area, but finding my way into the actual parks, like, because they got like just a little fence. You got to figure out where the trail is, and I don't really know that area very well, so it took me most of my time just figuring out where I get in. And once I was in there, I think I spooked one deer, and then I made a few grunt calls, and I heard one behind me, and it was getting exciting. I had a bow, I was ready, and all of a sudden, like, get one more grunt, and then I hear it like clacking through the brush, and it jumps out, and it's a young grizzly bear, surprised to see me. And I'm like looking at my bow, not sure if I'm like a good shot with a bow to take him down. So I just chucked it in my truck, ran to the front. He bolted into the bushes after the other deer that I guess he was stalking, and I sort of interrupted. But other than that, it was just mostly just exploring the area, driving around a lot.
Wow, I mean, that's pretty awesome, though. Being able to see a young grizzly bear, not expecting it. That's pretty solid, man.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been different out here. A lot of the area I've noticed is like, it's like a lot of like expansion, a lot of like really nice neighborhoods, like McMansions on like postage stamp yards and everything, and so, but then there's like, it's Oregon, so there's still like big timber in the background, and like it's just like modern civilization has definitely creeped in, and like there's just like these weird pockets of nature like cutting through all of it, and it's like one second you're in like this like business park, and the next second you're like in like raw like wilderness, maybe for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then you're like back, and there's a shopping mall, and a freeway, and you just, it's unique. I would say it's like in a unique spot in this like transition to like modern civilization, I guess. Similar to Alaska, but a little farther along.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, when I moved here, you know, all the Bigfoot stuff was like in the background of my mind. Like, really, I was worried about like coyotes or something like that. You know, something small. Like if I'm going to the park or something with my daughter. Our house actually backs up to like a forest. It used to be an old forested part of like an old orchard, like 100-year-old orchard, and so like the trees on this section of woods are just huge, like old growth, like Doug fir. It's like tall, huge trees. I mean, it looks beautiful, but it's a good place to hide. Um, I recall one of the episodes where you were interviewing a guy that was talking about how he had like run into them all the time, and they were like he said, like they're not up in the mountains, they're everywhere. Even behind Burger King. And I like thought about that, and like I've noticed that like I would concur, like yes, that they are in fact behind Burger King. They're like all over the place. Um, yeah, it's been crazy because like essentially how I started noticing was my neighbor had told me that there was like a what they thought was like a junkie or like a drug addict or something, real lanky guy, looked like he was from like Portland, which isn't, you know, out of the question. And you know, it's like a perfectly reasonable like thing to like look out for. So he said, keep your head on a swivel, just like, keep a lookout. One of our neighbors just saw him and he was in the park, and I'm like thinking, I'm a dad, I got a kid. It's like, okay, I'll just keep a lookout. It's my little office window. It faces the park, so I look at it every day. So I make sure, and I'm just like, I was always keeping an eye out. Um, when I was going to and from the park one day, I actually saw the guy. He looked weird, like real lanky, real like huge rib cage, real skinny. Looked like he was wearing like a tracksuit and like a hood. It was real weird. And he was like walking away and like slinking through the brush. Like I was like, oh, okay, it's a homeless person. And there was a lady that was walking in front of me. She was like, hey, you can't be here. You can't. Hey, he stopped and looked at her, and he had black eyes. He looked ashy. His skin was pale and ashy, and it was like gross. And I was like, ooh. But like at the same time, I was like, what was that? Um, and I just like made note of it, but I didn't like. I was still like my brain was like still focused on vagrants or something, and I saw that like a couple months later, like in the springtime, before the I had actually I should back up. When we moved in, we explored the forest. We like looked all over the place when we got here. The winter started, and we were like looking through the same area where that guy was slinking around. I found like a series of old some cedar trees, and it looked like some people had been squatting in there or something. And like I just figured it was like the local kids or finding a good spot to get high or whatever. So I was like, oh, well, this place is neat looking. We sat down inside, just like, looking around, like, wow, it's kind of roomy in here. And didn't think anything of it. And fast forward like a whole year. After I saw the guy slinking through the woods and all that stuff, I see the same guy. He's like lanking his way out of the brush, and I got a clean look at him. So he's coming out, and like, oh, it's that guy in the tracksuit. And I look at him again real close, and I see him. It's like, yeah, his eyes are black. His his hands are like elongated and just ashy looking, like longer than a normal person's, really long. Um, and his forearms and his his whole arms were like extra long, but like and his legs were long, but he was super skinny. Like his muscles weren't really there. And what he did was like he pushed his arms into his chest or his hands into his chest. They're out like sort of flared him out. And then like at first I'm like, is that guy on a bicycle? And it was like there was no I couldn't see a bike. All I saw was this weird posture. And he like arches forward and he like rocks his head up and he just starts running back and forth and like moving fast. And I was like, what? That's not a bike. What did I just see? Because it was like he was a little bit outside what I had expected to be like what a Squatch was from my experience in Alaska. It was just a little slightly different. Like the facial structure was slightly different. He had more like he looked more human, like he could pass for human. And that was the crazy part. They could pass for human. I also saw later on, like a couple months later, or not, maybe a month later, I see this kid up in a tree jamming a stick into the tree, and he looked human, but like I noticed he had some back hair, and it was just like it was funny. I looked up what he looked back at me. I go, hey, you shouldn't be. Hey son, you shouldn't be jamming on that tree. Don't wreck the tree. And he muttered something at me in some foreign language, like I couldn't understand him. But he was mad. He was like, "Rah, blah, 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 blah." He's like just looking back. And I stop and look at him. I'm like, this rich kid, what is he doing? And I was like, then look, he's got the black eyes too, and there's a little glint, crazy glint in his eye. His eyes were weird, and I wasn't. I was like, because like all of these things were happening so far apart, I wasn't really piecing everything together right up front. Then fast forward to most recently, um, the I had been like on my computer, you know, just like watching YouTube, whatever, and I had heard like through my headphones, I heard something plop on the roof, and I'm like thinking, hey, it's like something a little bit bigger than a raccoon. I was like, what? And I looked back, and whatever was on the roof, like bolted, like, but I didn't like. I just looked, and it bolted. It happened again, like about 2 weeks later. I was waiting for it. So this time, I opened up the window to see what it was, and it was a little. It was like a little 4 foot long, like baby squatch. Like it had hair all over its body. It had its mouth open. Its eyeballs were like pitch black. Marbles looked like an Ewok, you know, but but his head was small and it just like he's up in a tree. He's up in the cherry tree just above the roof. He had jumped. That is like about an 8 foot gap. So this little guy jumped in, got an 8 foot gap, was looking back at me. I was like looking at him like, whoa, hey little guy, whoa! And then all of a sudden, I hear a stomp, stomp, stomp. I'm like looking for the stomp, and I realize there's like Mama's looking at me. She's got a scowl on her face. She's not messing around. And she gives another stomp, stomp. Then she turns around and like sits back down behind the fence. I'm like, okay, good night. And I just shut the window and like turned out the light and went to bed. I didn't want to deal with that. Um, then now that the cat's out of the bag, I start seeing these guys, hearing them uh, in the middle of the day, and I decide to just go over there and just look for tracks. And I found one track, took a picture of it, but you know how that is. I didn't have any like plaster on me, so I didn't get any casts. I took a picture of it, and then I followed the tracks into what I thought might be the trajectory of like the the path they were taking through the brush. And I sort of guesstimated, kind of found more tracks, followed them, and then it sort of dead ended like by this like this berry bush, and it was near those trees that I had like been sitting in before, and it was all overgrown, and I'd never seen what a like a Sasquatch little like nest looked like. So I didn't know what I was looking at. So I was like, oh, I guess they ran off. So they went through that way past the cell tower. And I was like, I figured they were gone. So, but then I'm like, I've scored a big score because I just found a huge berry patch. So I go get my daughter. We get a bucket, and we're back there. It's like Himalayan blackberries, so they're huge and they're like ripe and ready to go. I just sort of stomp my way through, make a little path for her, and we're just like picking little berries. Then I hear a twig snap, like maybe 4 or 5 feet away, like just to the left. That ominous silent twig snap, and I look over and I realize I hear like the soft pad and like the heavy crush is like the loam is being crushed under like like a squatch is right there in the bushes, and I look and I see cracks, and I see a hairy back, a black hairy back, and then I hear another twig snap again as it shifts its weight right next to me, and I look back at the spot. The squatch moved out of the way so I could see the light, so I knew for sure they were in that little spot, and I realized they had built up this little like shelter right there, just like maybe like 12 feet off like the main trail where like families are going by, like. And I think what happened was this 3 or 4 soccer moms and like 12 kids happened to come by right as we were like right next to this thing. I think we were about to get it. I think we were about to get snatched up. But because those people had just been going by, I was like, all right, we got to go. And I got my daughter to sort of back out, and we went home. Um, and after that, like, I think it was more like I was aware and I knew what I was looking for. And after a while, I started getting used to their movements and like what they sound like when they're moving from like left to right. And they started watching me because I had like figured them out, and I was like clearly more aware than like the regular soccer mom. I don't think they'd run into a hunter before. And so it was like this weird tension, and like they were just sort of like started to just watch me, and like they had like a little bush that they next to my garden that they could watch me from, and they would like observe me walk off. The kids would come up whenever we were playing in the backyard. I heard like like little juveniles like running up to the fence, like their little feet just like crunching leaves, like just little steps. But like I was like picking them out, and like at first I didn't know what to think, because all I knew was like they snatched up little kids and all that stuff. So I was like a little freaked out. I was like, all right, we got to go inside now. And my daughter get upset because she wanted to play, but I was like, she saw that I was scared about something, and she said, okay. We went inside, and I didn't explain to her what was happening. Uh, so she's I think she sort of understood, but not really. She's like only 3 years old, so she's not really like registering what's going on. And that sort of got me just like fascinated, because I knew I could track, like I keyed in on what they sound like when they move through the brush. I could separate them out from a squirrel or a deer, and like when they were like moving. And so then suddenly one morning I step out onto the lawn, and I'm just here like a little, like just little whoops, like baby whoops, like real tiny baby whoops. I was like, oh wow. And it was just like chasing a squirrel up in the trees right above my cat. I was like, I think they eat the cats. Uh, gonna go stand next to my cat. I got too close to the baby when I did that. And then the mom got up, called to the grunted to the baby. Baby went down to mom. Mom stormed off, stomped off. She knocked over like 3 or 4 trees, like and I'm like just standing there, just watching like nature in the raw, just stomping away. And I was like, this might have consequences, but at the same time, it was like so awesome uh, to see it. But I was like sort of awestruck because she immediately climbed up into the trees and like swung from like these big timber branches, like these thick like 4-inch branches. She used them like a springboard, so like to like swing from like tree to tree, and you just hear it like cracking, like loud cracks as they're like swinging on it, and like she gets down, drops down, and plops right behind my garden. I'm like, guess I'm not watering today. But like just the just like the weight of her like plopping down and like hitting the brush and just seeing the fence shake, I was like, oh my gosh. And I realized like this is really tight quarters. Like they're in here and it's tight quarters, and I gotta watch my step and I gotta respect boundaries. And they had been like from I had like been like watching them previously though, like kind of checking like right before sundown just to see what they were doing. I'd walk past, and right around 5:30 or so, when the sun's starting to set, you can hear like an audible like yawn. As like as they wake up and they're like, "Grr," just like getting up, getting ready for the night. And what they were doing was like they'd be waking up, they'd like mill around, get grubs or whatever in the immediate area, and when the sun finally like goes down, that's when like probably around like 9, 10 o'clock, they'll start to move out into the immediate area, or they might have an objective. And that night with the baby, they were going to go get acorns, but it was all of them, and I thought there was only maybe 3 or 4 of them in there, but it was like 10 I didn't know about. They were spread out through the whole park, and they all got up onto the roof. I don't know if it was retaliation or it was just business as usual, but I could hear them plop, 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 and they were all just like scurrying around on top of my roof, and it was like terrifying. And then one of them plops down. I could hear the hair like crinkle down as he sat down and started picking at one of the exhaust like chimneys to the furnace. I could hear it like trying to mess with like one of the screws, trying to get it open. I hear him picking at it, and it's like picking and picking, and then you just hear like echoing through like the ducting, like the screws coming up, and I'm like, what's going on? Because I can just hear them like just like scurrying around, and they're fighting over acorns, and uh, I go to like the back window just to because I'm freaked out and I'm looking all over the place, and then I see like this 15-foot tall like I can't see him, but his eyes are like flashlights, like it's crazy, like Christmas lights, like beaming up, looking at him. Then he sees me, and he's like looking at me. He starts rocking left to right, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, am I gonna have to assert myself? I got to assert myself. So I just lock eyes with him, and he's just like looking, and then he gets he leans in to assert himself, and then I just lean in too, and I just get my eyes as big as I can get them. I just look at him and I just try to give him that FAFO look, F around and find out kind of look, and like he like can't handle the direct eye contact for too long, and he breaks contact, and he like slinks away, and then all of a sudden everybody starts like piling off of like the roof, and then it's sort of like a weird tension uh sort of brewing in the background. So I got these potentially angry Sasquatch living like 30 feet away from my house, right? And I'm not sure if I'm like equipped like in terms of like firepower. And even if I was, like, it's like a suburban neighborhood. If things go like sideways and I start shooting, I'm not sure if I can shoot in a safe direction, and it's like a really uneasy, like I gotta watch my step because I don't want to force the situation. And so more and more, once they realized that like I could see them, they started changing how they moved because there was like a weird hostility. I went out. I just wanted to sort of like make amends because I felt like I was stepping on everyone's toes. I just threw like a bunch of Brazil nuts, like some nuts, out into the woods uh, earlier that day, and or one of the following nights. And as the sun was setting, the kids were finding it, and the dad was like grunting at them to get back, get back. The word for stay away or get away is rah, rah. And like when they weren't listening and they were getting real close to the fence, he was like rah, rah. And he was just repeating it over and over again, and then they stopped and they backed away, and I was like just watching. It's like, okay, they have a language. They definitely have a language because like everybody knew what that meant. And then the next day we I was like trying to hose down the lawn because it was dry because we were like messing. We were fixing our sprinkler system, and so like the yard was dry, and I was just trying to save it. And I'm out there spraying, and the kids hear the water like plopping on the leaves near the fence, and I can just hear like all of them just like making a beeline just to check it out. And like the mom was like, "Bruh," and they stop it, and she was like, "Ah, ah," and they melted away. They just like went to other parts of the woods, and it was like definitely confirmed like stay back, stay away. You know, um, that was interesting. Um, the um what I and at this point, like, I'm sort of going for broke now. I'm like, so now I'm like a little like on edge, and so like every night I'm like patrolling like the upper level. I'm like, what I found is like if you can, like, if you have an extra room or something, turn on the lights in the extra room, and you can watch them from like a dark room. What it'll do is the light will pick up on the back of their eyes. It's it's super bright, like super bright, and you can actually pick up where they're at. They're a lot easier to track because they really reflect the light. It's like that's their Achilles heel, is like they have really reflective eyes. I'm assuming they can see really well in the dark, like they've adapted to that. But um, the eyes are like like I don't know if you remember, like as a kid, like if you ever looked into the barrel of like the Nintendo gun for duck hunt.
Absolutely, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't recommend people do that. That's not a recommendation, but I do
Yeah,
know what you're talking about.
it just has like that funny like gray like really like deep reflective lens. That's what their eyes look like. It just like it looks like you can tell that things are magnified. So I'm thinking they have like incredible like really sharp distant vision at night. I would on occasion what I've seen like from them was like when I started trying to do like I got some plaster. I was going to try to get some tracks. One night they came back from, I think they got a deer or something, or they got a bunch of like salmon or something. But I could hear them coming from quite a ways away. Normally they step soft, but this time they're heavy footed, like lead footed, and like they were moving kind of slow, and they walked past my window in a column, and like you could just hear them just move in a column, and I was expecting to find like tracks. One of them jumped off of my roof and down, so they had one guy just in case I popped out, like they were gonna like pounce me or something. But I wasn't gonna stick my head out anymore. I knew I was cruising for a bruising, and I just had to keep my nose down. But like at the same time, I'm like I gotta keep an eye out, right? So I'm listening to them just pound through, and I realized, yeah, there was like 10 or 12 of them, and about three of them were really big, and the rest were just juveniles, right? So they got a big family. They got one big one, and like the mom and the pop are just monsters. Like I I um I would estimate like them like it is probably like the mom's probably 13 and the dad is definitely a 15-footer, like just huge. um I went out there to just check for the tracks. I was going to get a cast, and there was one where the guy jumped off the roof, but after that they had raked the ground, like there was no tracks. They had raked the ground behind them as they went into the park, and I was just like flabbergasted by like that's incredibly intelligent. Like these aren't animals at that point. And but I made one terrible cast and some wood chips where the guy landed. I mean, it gave me a good size. It was about like a 15-inch like print. It wasn't like huge, but it was one of like the mid-level juveniles. But after that, all I did was like every night just do the same routine. You turn on a light, go far into the house, patrol into and look until you see like a twinkle or something. And what once they had figured out that I could see them, I saw one night I was like putting the kid to bed. She's going bonkers, just running all over the house. And I caught the eye shine of some of them, and I saw them coming out, not all at once, but like they're like one, two, three, just sort of really like delayed, like you do in the military. It's like you don't just all go out at the same time. You just go, 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 like real like paced, and like hoping not to catch my gaze. But of course, I'm hyper aware, and I'm seeing this, and I'm pretending not to see it, just so I could observe it. And they did that, and after they figured out that I saw them, they stopped coming out that way. So there's like a trail that goes next to my house, next to the my office window, and so I can see everyone that comes in and out pretty well. And this time they've stopped coming out of that trail, and they seem to be coming out the side trails. And one day after that, I noticed that like how high they get up in the trees. And most recently, what I've observed is that they like the dad will get up into one of the pine trees. I figured out it took me a second because I had to like start taking photos so I could zoom in and see what I'm looking at. The dad gets up in the tree in the neighborhood. He looks around for dinner, and then he like signals to the rest of them go that way, and they snack on a cat or they get fruit or whatever they're doing, and they've been the, they've stopped going for the acorns, or they'll wait till I fall asleep to go after the acorns. And last night, the mother, I caught the gaze of the mother and her gigantic head. She's huge. She's like this real boxy, like just huge. It's a big lady. Um, through my bathroom window. My bathroom window is like really high. It's this tiny window. She's looking in, making sure I'm not coming because I think she's trying to get the baby up to get some of the acorns. And I don't know if she's like hanging on the tree, this Doug fir tree, to like sort of reach across, but it's like she's big enough to sort of do it. So I think she tried to get the baby out. She couldn't get it that way. I saw her eyes, and then she tried to look away to hide her eye flash. And I just sort of like laid down just to listen, just to see what they do. Because when I lay down, they start to move because they think I'm asleep or something. I just wait, and then like she got up on the roof, and I just saw that I just felt like the corner of the house went like sort of like bowed a little bit because I don't think she knows she can't just go get up on the roof. She's a little big now. Um, but I just felt her like gently as possible, like try to sit down on the side of my roof. And I could hear the little one just like pitter patter towards the acorn tree, and like he's like up there. He brings branches back with like loaded with acorns, and I found like little like fang marks. I can tell which ones are theirs and which ones are squirrels because some of the fang marks in the acorn will have like this pus that'll start running, like this digestive enzyme or something in their saliva. It'll start oozing out of the acorns. Like the squirrels, it was look like it was nibbled, but like when the squatches like are chewing on it, it just has like this white like mucus or something like oozing out of the acorn. Um, what I've noticed in terms of like timing patterns, they seem to go around like 10 o'clock. They're out and about, and about 2 in the morning, it's like the witching hour. They're hunting, or they're finishing up eating something, or they're like sort of round. It's like the big roundup. It might start out like small things. They're just like looking and scouting around, but like about 2 in the morning is usually when they're on to something, and they're the most active, and they're like running around. They think nobody's awake anymore, and so they're really just going for it. They're going nuts in the neighborhood and like all around. I could just hear them just like running back and forth and like ripping around. And like right around 3:45 is when they sort of try to pack it in, and that's when they sort of try to grab what you can on the way back into the park. And I remember you had mentioned like right around 3:45, somebody was messing with your zipper on your tent, right?
Absolutely.
What I'm thinking is like that might have been a juvenile like Sasquatch, just like exploring, just checking it out. like maybe mom was right next to you guys, but like they're probably on their way home from like, hunting or whatever they were doing. But that's what I've noticed is like they keep the same pattern. They'll right around 10 o'clock, they're out and about. Um, they're like looking around. Some people are still jogging around, and like the mom, I've seen her down from my bath. Actually, my bathroom window had a good vantage point, my neighbor's driveway, and the baby seemed to be really fascinated with the um one of those, like, how the yards have those little like down lights that are like the little lamps. Like he was really fascinated with it, so I'd see him like messing with it, and the mom sort of sitting next to him while he explores. And then like a guy with like a skinny guy with a flashlight would just go walk like not even a foot and a half away from them both, like just like trying to get home. He's looking like, it was just amazed me like how quiet they can be, how close you can be to them without like even knowing they're there. And like it makes you wonder like how much you're like, I wonder if there is a Sasquatch out there. And then like while you're wondering that, you're walking past a Sasquatch. You know, there's I got a couple photos of the eye shine of like, what I've noticed is like when the mother, when she's got a young, she separates her from the main group, and she'll like keep the youngest ones kind of away from the bigger ones. I'm guessing because they get aggressive or something, but she'll stay separate. And when everybody goes out, the youngsters will stick to like her little like tree, and they'll be up in her tree while they're out, like everyone else is out hunting and they're like waiting for food. But they're up in the tree, and what they're doing is they're just like scanning around, just looking around. That's all they're doing, is just looking around, looking for mom, looking for danger. But they're like, you just see their little eyes, like uh just like really bright little twinkly eyes as they like pan around, and like the rims of like the iris are the brightest, like I'm guessing because like the light reflects back, and it's the brightest around like the edge. You can catch the edge, you can tell where they're looking because the edge is like the brightest. So you got this bright little ring inside the eyes, and they're looking down, and absolutely every time I go to peek and see if they're there, all of the eyes are like twinkly little eyes, like wherever they are in the forest, like just like laser focused right on me. Like they all like make eye contact. And like it's incredible like how quickly they zip, like they're on me. And then like uh it's it's like I am trying to like, keep a lookout, but I'm also trying not to upset the apple cart too much more. But last night was a little crazy because they had decided to stick close to the neighborhood. Normally they don't touch anything or like mess around on our block. They'll go out and they'll like leave like a rampage, like a path of destruction about like two blocks out. But like right here, it's like everything's untouched. They don't touch my garden. They don't touch the berries. They don't touch anything. The squirrels are like running around, like they're not touching anything. Um, they just like keep a really low profile. They don't make any loud like grunts or they don't call. They're just really silent. They're like really, well, I guess you call it noise discipline. They got really good noise discipline, but they're very stealthy about it. And but I've seen a lot of like thinking back at my daughter's preschool. The ladies there had told me that there was uh, a skinny guy like breaking into one of the sheds at the edge of the parking lot, closer to the forest edge, and they called the cops. The cops got to him, told him to freeze, and like he ran. And the cop said he was like a guy in a tracksuit with sunglasses. He ran and jumped and leaped up onto the roof, and he had moved faster than anybody he'd ever seen before. And not a single person was like made the connection. Like, was that a guy? Was that Bigfoot? Because or maybe they did, and they just weren't allowed to like just like report that. But it's it's real funny. Like if you say in your neighborhood, if you notice like trails in between places, like say like in an urban area, you'll see like a trail, looks like a game trail or something's been like working it. And like in California, I just assume it was just homeless people, but I think I've seen it everywhere now. But like Alaska, you could say it's a bear, a moose, or something like that, and then like you wouldn't think anything of it. But like out here, we don't have bears in the city. We don't have moose out here. There's little tiny deer like going through, like little. They're not very heavy, maybe 80 pounds, right? And you can you can see like there's like clearly something heavy has been using like little pockets. You'll see all the bushes, the brambles will be sort of like hollowed out, and there'll be like a little path going in and out. And they're like peppered across like the area. Like you'll see them like zigzagging, darting like back and forth. There's some old farmland that they have been converted to like a park, so people will go there to walk, and so they have a bunch of like nice fencing and stuff, and I started noticing like somebody was knocking down the fencing. I'm like, and seeing that there was somebody had also knocked down steel fencing at one of the vineyards here, and like it was like clearly a path just going down through, and down at the bottom of the hill kind of is where my daughter's preschool is. And like you just down at the bottom, somebody had like parked their camper van, and it was like normally nobody parks that stuff. They don't like seeing like abandoned vehicles and stuff, but like it was down at the bottom, kind of in the same sort of path as where this other stuff had been happening. I see it there for a couple of days, and all of a sudden I drive past it, and it looked like it exploded. Like the top had been ripped off, like all the like the innards and everything was like shredded. There's like shards of stuff, like somebody had driven like under an overpass or something, and like it just just completely exploded. But it was parked there, like nobody had been touching it. So it was, in my mind, I'm thinking the Squatch had just like ripped it apart, just like looking for like scavenging stuff, and didn't know what they were doing. But like something like ripped it apart. Like it's the only thing. It's the only reasonable explanation. So I don't think high school kids could do it. That kind of destruction. It just it had to be like the Sasquatch. But the I've been driving around some of the neighboring towns, and there have been like you do see like these trails and like these things that cut through the fences, and then you'll see like these like tore up trees and like bushes, and it just looks super squatchy in there. And like look over and it's like, oh, it's behind the Best Buy. Oh, great. And like once I'm aware of it, like it was everywhere. Like it was everywhere. These things are everywhere. And I'm thinking they've been here the whole time, and we're just like not. We never noticed because they're so good at hiding, because they're ambush predators, right? Um, I recently went out to a U-Pick orchard with my wife and daughter on like a weekend before last, and the I had we had parked the car and like we picked apples. Everything looks nice. Everything's clean cut, real kept. And then on our way back to the car, we pay for our apples. We're open up the back of my wife's vehicle, and we're just like loading up apples. Daughter has to go to the bathroom, blah blah blah. And I get a little time to just sort of look at my surroundings, and I realize like some of the apple trees didn't look very well kept. They looked real jagged and like bushy and weird and like just like creepy looking. And like I'd seen like a spot where they had mowed the grass, but they didn't want to go too deep into it. And I was like, this is looking squatchy. And like, luckily the couple had let me borrow one of their buckets, so I had to go return the bucket. And we were talking about apples, and then I said, I love these apples, but I got to keep the Sasquatch off of them, just as a joke, just to sort of drop a hint that I know what's going on. And then like she just rolls her eyes. She's like, "Oh my gosh, don't even get me started." And apparently, according to this lady who's like a local, she says that like the people in the know are saying that these guys are in all the parks. They're in like a lot of the urban areas now. They're not like staying to the woods. They're like actually coming into the cities, and they're sort of like becoming a nuisance. And but you don't hear about it because nobody talks about it, because it's like the elephant in the room. It's like if you bring it up with a lot of these people, it's like nobody wants to believe you, or they get real, they get. And it's been like really eye opening. I don't know, just like the idea of like you go out on this grand adventure, you get out into the mountains, you would expect to see like something like that. If you see a Sasquatch, you're like, wow, that was incredible. But like you come home, it's like I'm cool with camping for a while. I'm just gonna relax here. And now it's like they're here too. They're like absolutely everywhere. And I'm just trying to figure out, in the wintertime, they weren't in the forest. They weren't in there at all. And I'm trying to figure out where they might go. I've just by chance of like just like looking into the area. Uh, there are like a series of caves nearby, like within like the West Linn area, and but they won't say where they are because they don't want people like trashing them. So it's like a local secret. But I'm kind of wondering if they don't just like hunker down in the caves for the winter and then just sort of come back in the spring. They're still like hunting and doing their stuff, but they're like staying warmer in out of the cold. But I don't know. Like just like would you say like have you noticed anything in your area in terms of like trails or like weird stuff that's out of place, like bushes and stuff and tore up trees?
So
would you say out there?
Josh, I'll say that our areas are completely different. I live in I'll just say small town Iowa. There's not much where I'm at, but I do have some questions for you though. Yeah, for sure. This is extremely interesting. Can you remind us? I know you had mentioned it in the previous episode you were on. The general area where this is taking place, and keep it as vague as you need to for anything you can provide for context.
Oh, okay. I'm in a town called West Linn. It's in Clackamas County. It's just south of Portland. about like half an hour outside of, like 25 minutes outside of Portland. Um, it's like on the other side of the Willamette River. Um, it's sort of, one side is like Oregon City and Canby. Another side is Tigard and Sherwood, and there's a lot of little towns that are like sort of like suburbs of Portland, essentially. But we're on like the opposite side of the river, like to the rest of it. So we don't get like a lot of crime on this side of the river. It just most of the stuff happens on the opposite side. But yeah, so just south of Portland. I'm like right on the backside of West Linn, so I'm like um just kitty corner to a bunch of ranches and farmland, and there's like a few vineyards. Um, it's like it's surrounded on all sides by river. So there's like the Tualatin River meets the Willamette River, and on the north side is a place called Lake Oswego, and that is essentially, we're like on like a giant hill, and the probably the northeast corner of the hill is where you get into Lake Oswego, and it's pretty much like a weird little like peninsula of like it's river or it's lakefront, but it's like surrounded by water. And just to the east is Mount Hood, so we're kind of in the foothills of Mount Hood. To the west is Astoria and like the Oregon coast and like all that stuff out there, like Tillamook. Uh, it's yeah, so it's like I would say like Western Oregon. It's on more of a rainforesty side, but just south of Portland.
It's very interesting when you look at it on a map because you can definitely see how it is that southern part of the whole Portland urban sprawl, but the green is there, and it's definitely like you could see that, it's starting as it grows more and more. This Portland suburb area, it's slowly taking over more and more of the woods, I would guess. And you could see how stuff like this could definitely happen with different types of animals losing their
Right,
habitat for sure. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, it's just so funny. Look, it's a little ominous too, though. Like, I if I when it gets about the witching hour and I start looking out windows, sometimes I'm just looking for straight eye shine. I don't even bother trying to look at for shapes. I'm just looking for the shine. And I got one peeking at me through the passenger window of the opposite side of the car. I was like, what is that bright light? I was like, so the flashlight, and I realized it was just one eye. He's just peeking through a tinted window, but I could still see the flash. It was so bright. But like just the fact that they slink around like that, like they're just very like elusive. And I've had it like come up like when I was in my garden. This was like last week in my garden, a little after the whole like upsetting mama and like the whole eye contact thing. Um, the dad like came up to the fence line and he just went in, like I could hear him just go and I look and then like I hear him move and like he's already like behind like a timber tree like 10 feet back, and he's looking at me now like broad daylight. And it it was he's got big beady like big round black eyes like an Ewok, right? But like big gorilla head, human nose, like a pudgy nose, like real thick jawline, like big thick gorilla lips, but like real flat face. Like the hair, goes up to a point to the nose, but like it all flares out right around the chin line. I had sent you like pictures of like drawings is like the best I could do from like trying to remember from like 20, 30 years ago. And they're pretty close, but like not as like not as spot on as I would like, but pretty close. The nose on them is like they have a really strong like bridge like from like the forehead down to like where it meets like the face. Like where it dips in by the eyes is real thick, like straight down, but then it sort of flattens out and then it comes back out like a triangle, like a soft, like triangular shape, but it's also pointed down. And like it's sort of like the shadow of it makes like a nice chevron. But yeah, what's it I know there's that guy that's controversial that was like getting all these headshots of like those that everybody's like, I don't know, it looks fake, but
Todd Standing.
That's it.
Todd Standing. Yeah.
It was he did it was essentially pretty close, not as hairy, but like the one where they hid that the young one with the big round eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like that. It was just like that.
Really?
And yeah, I was a little surprised by that because like when I saw it, I thought it was like fake. I was like, nah. I think he's just because he's only getting the headshot. Like where's the rest of the body? Either he knows what they look like and he just had like them made up, or they're real because like the current zeitgeist for like Bigfoot is like this big sweeping haired like hunk with like chilling with Sasquatch or like Teen Wolf, like Harry and the Hendersons, like not what it. I don't know. It's just like if I was gonna make it up, I'd make it look like that because that's what everybody knows. That's how they identify it.
Exactly.
And I just feel like, look, if it's fake, he fooled me. Like I think it's real. I think what he's got is real because it's just too a little out of the ordinary to like too specific to fake. Those features are like dead on. So I'm thinking he caught them in the wintertime. They got more hair on their face or something. Maybe they shed it in the summer. Who knows? Like I don't even know what their life cycle is beyond just like how they hunt right now, and it's summertime. Which is interesting to think about. Like if you've ever seen like some of those videos or those TikToks where they like people are like saying, "Oh, a ghost is coming to visit it," like a girl, and like you see two twinkling eyes, and she's like, "It's back again," and like it starts knocking on the glass, and she like films it, and it's a Sasquatch tapping on the glass, getting her to come outside, and they're saying like poltergeist or something, and like you just go through YouTube and you can find like a lot of stuff where they're just saying like the guy's going fishing and like all of a sudden he hears a roar and he's like, "What's that? I don't know." And there's like tons of Bigfoot footage that people don't know is Bigfoot footage because they're not looking out for that because it's not like, oh, that was something weird because they're not thinking about that stuff. But it's interesting to think that like you could probably go back through your library and just like see a video where it was something weird. You listen to it one more time, he's like, oh, that is a squatch. Oh, wild. And like it just like it's a situation, and you can sort of like glean a lot of like information just off of what was happening in the scene. And like it's a lot easier to pick it out because at that point, they're not trying to trick you because they're, it's like they're trying to do like a fishing video or something, and like a Sasquatch screams at them, and they're like, I don't know what that is, but they don't ever claim it's a Sasquatch, and like you can sort of cherry pick that stuff. It's like, but it is hard to sort of like, you really got to be on your toes when it's like when you're looking at this stuff, because there's so many people, they're just trying to fake it, and I don't know, it's just
absolutely.
It just seems like you can just as easily put less effort in and go find an actual Sasquatch and like get the footage with like some trail cams or something and like call it a day. But like they go through a lot of effort, like thousands of dollars for a suit, and it doesn't look right, and then they go hike in the woods and run around a little bit, and like you could have just walked behind Best Buy and just snagged a photo.
Have you ever considered putting up trail cams around your house or having like an audio recorder going at night?
I thought about the audio recorder, but like I got one trail cam, and whenever I put it out, activity ceases on like that side of the house.
Right.
and I'll see stuff happening on the other side, so I move the camera over there, and then nothing. It'll be nothing. And I've just been doing this dance, and I just couldn't figure it out. And like, I think is going on is like, there'll be a scout up in the tree just watching me, just dedicated to watching what I'm doing, because I'm Mr. Snoop. I'm snooping around too much, and they can get way up into the canopy where I can't really see them, and they'll just look down comfortably, scout the area, and sort of get a sense of like what I'm up to, and then they know to just go around or avoid it, or it might not even be that complicated. It might be that like they just can see like the infrared, and like the cameras are probably putting off like a crazy light. They're like, what is that? Okay, get away from that thing. I thought about going up on the roof and like strapping it to the chimney just under the oak tree, but I'm like a little like, I'm not sure if they're watching me when I do it. And like I said, like as soon as I move or mess with something, they sort of change their behavior and like sort of avoid that thing for a little while. But if I was gonna do like cams, I'd need to do like 10 of them and just like put them out, and I think the audio recorder would probably be easier because it's like real small and you can just like ditch it by the fence and just see what happens.
Oh yeah, you can set it to record for certain hours of the day. It doesn't have to be going all the time. Have you talked directly to your neighbors to see if they have seen similar things to like what you're experiencing?
I don't think it's one of those. It's like keeping up with the Jones. It's a like a middle class, like upper middle class neighborhood, and everybody's really in their lane, and nobody talks like that. Like I have to get out to the country where people are a little more relaxed. They'll shoot the breeze with me about it, but like the people that own the orchard, they can, like once you drop it, it's got to be really blue collar people. I found that like I went into Cabela's when I bought the game cam. I was like the girl at the register. I go, hey, do you guys have any like FLIR technology or any sort of like heat sensing like scopes or anything like that? I got a Sasquatch problem at my place, and I'm trying to sort of just get a beat on what they're doing. And like she rolled, like, oh my gosh, tell me about it. And like, so I think a lot of people know. I don't know what my neighbors, my direct neighbors know.
Sure.
and they all seem really just like they keep to themselves, and like I'm a little more boisterous and outgoing, so it's just I don't want to intimidate them too much. So I try to sort of stay in my lane around here. But like when I'm out and about, I'll like ask people.
It's a very interesting situation you have going on, for sure, and be interesting to see how it develops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel that you're safe in the area that you're at, or do you guys kind of feel like, a little bit like you're under surveillance?
I feel like I'm under surveillance. My wife is just like so busy with her work that like it's like trying to, even though I've shown her photos of stuff like with like the eyes and stuff, she'll try to explain it away. She doesn't want to. She really doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't got time. And she doesn't want me telling her daughter about this stuff and like having her go to school and like just like she doesn't want her being scared about it. But me personally, I'm a little like I know they're watching me, and I know it's like, bro, I'm on thin ice. I'm on thin ice over here. Like trying to snoop around so much, I've ruffled some feathers, and I don't feel as comfortable. I haven't been through to the park anymore. I just stopped going. I just like they don't like sort of come in my yard, and they keep a wide berth. And I think if I start going into the park or anything like that, it's like all bets are off. So I've just sort of been sort of like a weird little like island. And but yeah, I don't. I know that like in terms of like protecting myself, I'm a crack shot. I mean, I can lay out some rounds, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I just I feel there is some tension. Like I don't feel safe, honestly. And and it seems like the neighbors in the area are just blissfully unaware of what's going on. Because when I had originally upset the mom and she had stormed off and was crashing through the trees and like all this stuff, there was like 5 or 6 girls like coming up the trail laughing about whatever one other person said, just like blissfully unaware of the danger they were directly in. And like thankfully like the mom just like picked a spot and plopped down, and like it sort of ended there. But like there's like moms and kids and dogs, and nobody's noticing this stuff. And it's like me alone, and like a sprinkling of people that already know about it. But for the most part, most people are just they don't. It's not registering, and like that makes me feel unsafe too. Because if if like I've heard stories of them like snatching up kids through the window, and like you know not like I could go around the corner or something, or I'll be in the garden or something, and just, like they could easily just like reach out and like just end me, like snap my neck, rip my head off. And it's like an uneasy feeling. But my fences are very strong. It's like a rotten old fence, and it's just really unsettling just to sort of know that like I'm on that knife's edge, and I really just got to watch my step. So like in terms of investigations and stuff, I'm just gonna keep my nose down for a little bit. But what I would like to do, like in an ideal world where money was no object, I would do like FLIR like cameras on drones, and just do a flyby, and then like 10 trail cams, and just catch something, because like I can hear where they're going. I know where they're kind of like bopping around, and like if I could get in there, put a bunch of trails, little cams around, get the flare going to see the body heat, see where they're at. Yeah, you could get all sorts of great evidence, but it's real tense. Not as tight quarters. It's too tight, and it's weird. Like if I didn't live in the area, if I was just like a passerby, like they didn't recognize, if I just looked like a regular person, like walking the dog, you could plop some like quick little like cameras down, no big deal. But they're on me. They're on me like gang, but like dragnet. Like I really gotta watch what I do. Um, I've tried to reach out to um, Cliff at the Bigfoot museum. Like say like ask for some advice. All he told me is just get some. It's a great opportunity to get some casts, and I was like, so it's been a pretty tense. Like so, yeah. I don't feel safe, but I feel like they're hardwired to hide, and so they're not going to just come out and like get me. But if I give them the opportunity, they'll probably like snatch me right up. So I stay out of the woods. I stay just kind of away from my fence line, and I kind of got my little bubble I stay in.
It's a very interesting story, Josh. And as I said before, it'd be interesting to see how it develops. But if there are listeners in the same area of, West Linn, the area just south of Portland, and you're noticing things like this, please reach out as well. Bigfoot Society at gmail.com. Sounds like there could be something interesting starting to happen in the south area of Portland.
Yeah, but I guess I could give away. I mean, the park. If you want the actual park, it is Merrillhurst Heights Park. It's right at the top of the hill.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I think a random person can get through. Maybe strap some cameras and just like do a pass through. You might catch something. But they're definitely still in there. I can see this every night I'm seeing like the kids like fooling around or jamming on trees. I like actually last night or 3 nights ago I actually did see like that one kid with the stick. He was like 20 feet up in the tree. I could see him. I could see his silhouette, and he looked over, and I could see the eye shine. And I knew for sure. So there's like, I think they have, like, there might be like a issue where like they don't produce as much body hair right off the bat, but then they start. Maybe they sort of like as puberty hits, they really just put it on because I think I've seen that kid like run into the park and steal sandwiches from the birthday parties because like if you look at like any sort of like primate species, if you look at the babies, their hairline is just like a human's. It's just a little hair on top, maybe no hair on the body, and they look like a little kid with like a big melon head. And like I've seen these kids like come through, run up, grab a couple sandwiches or something or some treats from like the tray at like some of the birthday parties under the covering and like run back into the bushes. I like initially when I saw that, I never put two and two together. I was like, like this seems like a great place to live, like the little redneck kids getting into trouble. And I'm seeing the flash. It might be flashlights. Yeah, it looks like it's flashlights. That's good. Okay.
Pretty wild stuff, man.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, sorry. So it's just like it's a like there's like 1,000 stories on just off the top of my head, like a bunch of little things. But
Absolutely.
yeah, if you're in the area, Marylhurst Heights Park, just give it a pass through or just go check it out. Just look around. But don't go too far off the trail because there's a day watcher. So like left, like over by the cell tower, they'll have their little like hut or their nest, and on the opposite side of the trail, like usually the male will be like watching people from like the behind the trees, and you can hear them like you'll hear like a twig snap or something. So it's best just to like sort of try to take in what you can, like you're pretending to walk through, and then just like GoPro or something, and just try to catch it on the fly.
Great advice for
But yeah,
people to take if they do decide to take a hike in that area. But
yeah,
Josh, I appreciate you coming back on to provide an update for what you're experiencing down there south of Portland.
yeah, yeah. I just appreciate you letting me like talk about it because like I don't have many outlets for this stuff, so it's a little off putting, a little stressful, and it's good to get it off my chest.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great night, Josh. Hopefully you get some rest tonight.
Oh yeah. All right, you too. Thank you.
Have a good one, man.
Yep.
Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening. Did you make it through the credits and you're wanting to listen to more episodes of Bigfoot Society? Of course you are. So check this out. This episode right here is Josh's original episode on Bigfoot Society, episode 290. It's all about his incredible Bigfoot encounters in the Hatcher's Pass area of Alaska and how he got chased through the boneyards. You are not going to want to miss this one. So go ahead, click right there, click that episode, and listen to more wild encounters from Josh. Go ahead, click it. Thanks for listening. Make sure you're subscribed, though. And thanks for listening. See you next time.